Welcome back to the Southeast Health Literacy Conference. Man, what a day today. We had such an amazing morning. We kicked off with a talk from Allison from the University of Arkansas Medical Science Center. We heard from an amazing panel of experts about accessing health information in our rural populations. Man, we heard so many great experts speak today about the challenges that we're faced. But we have one more special treat for you tonight. We have a really special workshop, and I'll be introducing our speaker in just a second. But before I do that, I think it's time to give away a few prizes today. So if you give me a second, I'm going to flash really quickly. Hopefully they are present. If not, I will follow up with an email so that everyone can claim their prizes. Yesterday, we kicked off with two workshops, and we had a winner who attended the workshop yesterday. So we will begin with her. We will begin with her as the first prize winner. So congratulations, Michelle Hutchinson. You have won this amazing smart water bottle. It is the most amazing bottle that you never knew that you needed. Seriously. And we also had a trivia question earlier today. We have three winners for that one, and the winners are Kayla Visor, Abby Thorne, and Erica Wilson. And I'll tell you, the question was the first golf club in America was established in Charleston in 1786. And what we realized after we shared this trivia question is that there are some discrepancies on the internet. So just as it is with health information being inconsistent on the website, we realized this is actually misdocumented as well. So we chose three winners to make it fair. The first two winners plus the second date of 1787. So you all are winners. Thank you so very much for participating. And please email hilmo@musc.edu to claim your prize. So I don't want to delay this anymore because you're in for a special treat. We have the Rose Show Live, Roshonda Pratt, who is going to speak to us about the power of visibility, connecting and engaging your audience. Roshonda Pratt is the creator of the Rose Show Live, and the Rose Show Live is a platform that helps entrepreneurs and organizations boost their marketing ROI through brand storytelling and live video. A digital media pioneer with over 20 years of experience producing TV news, she's a visibility expert in coaching clients to find their voice, engage their audience, and grow their business. We heard a lot about digital health literacy today. So Rose is going to be sharing some strategies on how you can make sure that you're connecting over video. She is also an international speaker and the author of the Amazon best-selling book, CEO of Live Video, Discover the Fundamentals of Dominating Live Video. And her most recent book, Visibility is Power, Discover the Power of Being Seen and Being Heard. And you got to stick around because we have a few more prizes to give away. But without further ado, I am going to welcome Roshonda Pratt, the Rose Show Live, and she will be up in just a minute. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Monique, for that wonderful introduction. I'm really excited to be with you all today. I'm really pumped to talk about this because this is something that I am very excited about. And just give me a thumbs up, those behind the scene, to let me know that you can see my presentation. Okay, awesome, awesome. So today we're talking about visibility is power, how to connect, build, and engage your community in a pandemic. And this is so key to what we've experienced over this past year. I want to start off with this quote by leadership guru John Maxwell, who tells us this really powerful quote: a crisis never leaves you the same. Did you hear that? A crisis never leaves you the same. And I want you to understand that what we've experienced, if you haven't already figured this out, is a crisis. But we have the ability as leaders to either be different after this or remain the same. And my hope and prayer for you is as we navigate through this workshop today, that you will never be the same. That you will look at your show up, your visibility, your message much differently when it comes to building, connecting, and engaging with your audience. Because it is true, a crisis never leaves you the same. So let's get into this. What you will learn today in this workshop, you are going to learn the importance of community. That's been a really heavy word that's been it has become like a buzzword, like influencer and all those other terms, but you're going to learn the importance of community. What does that mean to be a part of a community? The importance of community. You're also going to learn how to use technology for communication. Now, as Ms. Hill did during my presentation, she talked about that I love live video, right? I'm a live video pusher. I have 20 years experience working in television. We're going to get into more details of my story, but I'm very big on taking what is happening right now and how can we use technology for communication to build communities. And then we're going to talk about some best practices, okay? Now, who am I? You heard the bio that was just spoken about me. I want to go a little bit deeper because we're going to be spending some time here and we're going to be getting really real with one another during this time. I'm a former television news producer. In fact, I tell people that I've been in the television news world since the fourth grade. So I have been a TV news producer since the fourth grade. Here's how that whole story happened. My dad, my mom are from the beautiful country of Trinidad and Tobago. Growing up in the fourth grade, my dad told me that it was my responsibility and duty as an American citizen to know what's going on in my country and community. So while my friends were watching the Smurfs, totally dating myself by saying that, I was watching Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings. The plus to that is I always aced current events. That's really great. I'm a live video pusher. So I've taken the experience of what I've learned 20 years of working behind the scenes as a television news producer and teaching people how to really take those experiences to gain camera confidence, to put their story out there, to become visible, to show up many of the things that I've learned in television to tell their story. I host this show every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Would love for you to join me, called Master Your Monday with The Rose Show Live, where we help you master your week or your day with something that's going to make your life better. Okay. I wrote a book that became an Amazon bestseller, CEO of Live Video. It's how to connect and convert your live audience. And because you are a friend of mine, you get a free chapter. So the free first chapter is yours. You can go to bit.ly/row free book. That's bit.ly, bit.ly ROFREEBOOK. So that's my gift to you because you are my new BFF and I came bearing gifts. I'm the frequent user of the word y'all. You're going to hear this in this presentation. I know I'm amongst family, so don't judge. I'm not originally from South Carolina, but I married a guy from the Carolinas. I like grits and sweet tea, and I discovered that I am now a frequent user of the word y'all. I married my college sweetheart. We just celebrated 16 years married. I believe that he's the one, and we have 3 children, 13, 10, and Baby Show, as she's called online, who is 3 years old. And she's the reason why I'm working, because I'm really working for her and she's the boss. All right, so let's get into this. I would hope you would have an aha moment like this. Many of you may have remembered this. This was about 3 years ago, right? When we had the total solar eclipse, I was pregnant, so I looked like the solar eclipse. And I was so fascinated that this thing was coming overhead. I was working at WLTX in Columbia, South Carolina. So I hope you have aha moments like this on the screen that you see. This is so amazing. If it is amazing, please share it on social media. Please hype up the great work they're doing with this conference and all the things that you experience. And make sure to tag me at The Rose Show Live. Let's get into this. Visibility is defined as the state or quality of being perceivable to the eye, the state of being discoverable or apparent. In layman's terms, real simple, you have to be seen. right? And I believe that this whole concept of visibility is so important, is so paramount to what is happening in the world today. People want the real deal. And here's the thing, they especially want the real deal from their healthcare provider, from the person they deem as an expert, as a resource. And in order to combat all the misinformation that's out there, right? Because we've all seen it, we've all experienced all the misinformation that's happening out there, then you have to do what? You have to show up. It is paramount for you to show up, okay? So tell your neighbor, okay? Tell them you have to show up. Turn to the person next to you. Say it out loud. If you're the only person that's next to you, say it to yourself. You have to show up, okay? It is so good, so key. All right. So here's what we want to do. I want you to answer this question right there on your notes. On a scale of 1 to 5, I want you to rate your visibility factor, your factor of being seen and heard as an expert, as a health professional, as a expert in your field and in your lane. On a scale of 1 to 5, I want you to rate your visibility. 1 being poor, like the rain is falling, there's no windshield wipers, and we can't see out the car, to 5, it's a sunny day and you're showing up. Because I believe we can't fix what we don't acknowledge. Did you hear that? We can't fix what we don't acknowledge. If you don't acknowledge that, you know what? I've kind of been playing hidden figure. I've been playing backseat to what I'm doing. I'm not fully showing up fully to support, to connect to my community. We have to be honest about that. Community is so important. And I know that you've heard that. I believe that common thread being woven through this conference about community being important. And we learned the value of community by simply looking back on this time when we learned that we didn't have it. Think about it. It was one of the major things that we lost during this pandemic. We lost connection to our places of worship. We lost connection, for the ladies here, to brunching with our friends, fellas playing golf with your friends. We lost community and we lost connection. And that's why it's so important that we understand how to build community during this time. Now, I want you to understand, as the world is starting to open back up, thank God for the vaccines and all of those things that are happening, and people are doing their due diligence to do that, right? That doesn't mean we go back to life as normal. I've been hearing that a lot. People say, oh, we're getting back to life as normal. Here's the thing, I don't think we really were living life as normal before. And what I think, going back to what John Maxwell said, that a crisis never leaves you the same, that we have the opportunity to take the things that we've learned about building, connecting, and truly engaging with our community, because it was paramount, and we can do something different now that we weren't doing before. If we want to be more durable, we talk about togetherness, and we talk about all of those things that are needed. We have to work to build community. And community now is both physical and virtual. So it's like a hybrid. Many of you may have experienced a hybrid conference where you have the in-person component and then you have the virtual component. And that's what community has become now. Truly, community has become a hybrid. And we have to understand that though we're getting back together again, there's still this virtual component that people have become accustomed to, they've been introduced to, and now they're saying to themselves, why would I want to go back to anything different? Right? Community is built by showing up time and time again. But there's 2 principles that are needed for building community: active and virtue. Now, this is not a concept that I have come up with. It actually is a concept created by New York Times columnist David Brooks. And I think it's so key, the principles when it comes to building community, the principles that I've seen in my own life when it's come to building a community of entrepreneurs, a community of thought leaders and experts who want to show up in their genius. And it goes back to these 2 words that you may be familiar with: active and virtue. See, it's not enough just to post pictures, to put a hashtag. You have to be active. You have to have action behind your community building. Did you hear that? That also goes back to consistency. So it's not something we do once, we do it for a week, we do it for a couple of days, and we're like, yes, this is working, this is amazing. And then you leave your people hanging and you're gone. You're actively making the decision that I am going to continue doing this. So it's active. Okay. Somebody right there where you are, say active. I don't hear you. Yep, I have virtual ears to hear. I need to hear you say it. This is active. That's right, active. And then we talk about that this activity turns into virtue. Okay. So when we talk about virtue, it's the things that are intrinsic. Okay. It's the things that drive that outward action. I'd like to say virtue is your character and who you truly are. Did we not learn that in the space of the pandemic? There were some people who were acting like, oh, I believe in community. I believe in patient care. And then we found out that that wasn't really the case because anybody can hide behind a computer screen, anybody can pay a social media consultant to do it for them. But you really had to learn for some people how to walk the talk. So when we're talking about principles needed for building a community, it has to be active, right? So this is not just feelings, but active is action. You walk the talk. And then it has to be virtue, right? It has to go just into a deep reason why you're being active. I believe that this is your character, this is your integrity. Now, here's a social media platform that we've seen that's taken off. Maybe many of you have heard about it. It's the new Clubhouse app, okay? Clubhouse is an invitation only audio chat iPhone app. It launched about 1 year ago and already has 10 million plus. I think the last time or the last number I heard was between maybe 11 or 13. There's some differences, but I know it's more than 10 million users that are on this platform. The thing that's really great about this and why people love it is because it's all live audio, which means I don't have to get dollsed up. I don't have to have a ring light. I just have to have the capacity that people can hear me. In the first couple of days when I was on the app, I got on about in December around Christmas time. People, listen to the word, hungry for community, love this platform because it created what we were missing: community and live events. So the platform is set up like you're at a conference. You have a hallway that has all of this content and conversations that are going on. And then you can go into a room and listen to that particular conversation. So it mirrors and mimics what we missed about coming to live events. We missed what? The community. We miss engaging and building relationships. So Clubhouse has done a good job in helping us to understand community versus competition. Now, what do I mean by this community versus competition? In this social media network app, you can select your interest groups and you can listen to live audio communication within those groups. Once you enter a chat group, you can see the names and profile pictures of the speakers and even the audience. Each chat room is closed and the group is disbanded after every conversation. So there's no way it's recorded, there's no replay, it's conversation in real time. And here's the thing about community. The thing that's so awesome about this, and especially a lot of health professionals using this platform, is because it gives this thought of we're better together. Did you hear that? We're better together. Our visibility is power when we can lock arms and work together to get the information out to our community. So let me give you a couple examples. There are doctors who are getting together and hosting conversations around COVID-19 and helping to dismantle some of the myths and the misinformation that's out there. Some of the misinformation some of your patients and clients may be coming to talk to you about. There are health professionals who are getting together and hosting rooms to talk about mental health, solidarity, and support, right? Because they have been frontline workers for more than a year. You have communities where they're getting together and talking about patient care and talking about how they can further serve the people, the community that they're called to serve. See, it's about community versus competition. And that's so powerful. The other thing that why this is really great is it's user friendly. Now, I'm using Clubhouse as an example, right? You're definitely welcome to join if you have an iPhone. It's only available for iPhone users right now. But I'm using them as an example because they're a great case study in this building community. And one of the things that they do is the community, the organizers, the folks who invented this app, the creators host a weekly town hall with updates, consistently reinforcing they are working for us. So they listen to people's suggestions, right? You know that suggestion box you may have in the office. Can't tell the last time someone really checked it to see what people say, or you just have it there, but you're not really listening to what's being said there and really considering how can we implement this to serve people better. They hold a weekly town hall where they shout out people. Kate told us that she wanted to be able to do this on the app, and we're working to get that done. And so they create an environment, they create a story. We're going to get into this where they're creating a place for community and they make it user friendly to do so. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. There's not a lot of, things in order to get started. They make it user friendly and easy for you to start community. So, in order to build your community, taking the case study from the Clubhouse app, how can you build your community through technology? Here's what your community needs: it needs a story, it needs branding and marketing. And, ladies and gentlemen, branding and marketing are not the same thing. And it needs consistency. Did you hear that? Story, branding, marketing, and consistency. Those are just some of the base, the foundation of what you need in order to build a thriving community that is connected and engaging. Branding is your who, marketing is the how. Sometimes we're lopsided with that. Sometimes we spend a lot of time with the marketing. How are we going to market? How are we going to get our message out there? That's important. But we don't spend a lot of time deep diving in who are we as an organization, as an agency? Who are we? That's so very key because notice I put story first because facts tell, but stories sell every single time. And your story is your slab. You're building a house, the slab that they put down to set the frame of the house is your story. The things that they put up, the beams and everything else is your branding and marketing. And consistency is how you continue to build upon this so you have a completed and finished house. Story, branding, marketing, and consistency are so very important to what you are doing. And here's the thing: if you believe that your story is important, why would you keep silent about it? One of my favorite Native American proverbs says this: facts tell, but stories sell. And you have a story. Your agency, your organization, you as a health professional have a story. Let's get into that. Let's focus on the story. If you don't manage your story, someone else will. Plain and simple, there it is. If you don't manage your story, someone else will. And why would you leave your vision, your story to someone else who doesn't understand it? Someone who wasn't in the trenches in creating it in the first place. And so we have to be okay with managing our narrative and understanding how do we want to put that narrative out there to build our community, because it's the story that draws people. So we got to ask some serious questions here, right? So we have to understand what's the power of stories. Stories connect us. Stories make it easier to understand, right? Stories are memorable. Stories create trust. Do you see this? Look at your marketing and everything that's happening in the world around you. Stories create trust. Let's see what else stories do. Stories shape your reason for existence. Stories prompt action. Stories inspire, educate, and entertain, and stories create context. Your audience, your community, they need story. That's how they become and get in your community, because somewhere in here, they see their story or they want to be a part of the story, because ultimately people want to be a part of a movement. So you have to ask yourself some questions, and I've put these questions on the screen. Please take a screenshot of this because I think it's very important. Sometimes we're so busy doing the work that we don't ask ourselves some really important questions. And these are questions that in our company we revisit time and time again. Do you frequently revisit your story, right? Do you revisit? This is the story. This is our vision. This is our messaging. This is what we're saying to people. Does it still resonate? Is it still impactful? Is it still building influence? Is it still necessary? This is important. Does everyone on your team know the story? I learned this working at my first television news job in Charlotte, North Carolina. My news director at the time was a guy named Keith Connors, who I learned so much about television news producing. I told you that first station was Baptism by Fire. I started while I was a senior at Winthrop University, go Eagles, and it was Baptism by Fire because everything that could have went wrong in the world happened the 4 years I worked there. From 9/11, the war on terror, the Ray Caruth trial, Dale Earnhardt Sr. dying, Strom Thurmond dying, everything you could think of happened in those 4 years that was there. But one of the things that Keith Connor taught us was everyone on the team knowing our station story. This is how he would do it. He would do the morning meeting, and whenever we had a new reporter or a new producer or a new team member, he would have them come and introduce themselves to the team, and then he would go around the room and just randomly call people, not in a way to put you out on the spot or to blast you or to embarrass you, but he would say, Ro, what is it that we're known for? And I would say, Keith, one of the things that we're known for our weather coverage. Good. Bonnie, what else are we known for? We're known for community activism and sharing the stories of the little guy. You see that? People have to know your story. It's not enough for you to know it. That's great. But the whole team has to be brought into the vision. The entire team has to know the story. Does your story align with your community, your audience? The people you're saying that you want to impact and bring into your community, that you want to wrap your arms around. Does your story align? Basically, do they see themselves in what you're saying, in what you're producing, and what you're telling people that you are? Do they see themselves? Is your story a movement, right? Remember what I said? Look at our culture. Look at everything that's happened, right? Everything that's happening around us can be a parable for teaching. Everybody wants to be a part of a movement. They want to be a part of something. Ready for this? That's moving. That's alive. That's full of life. People want to be a part of that. And you have the great opportunity of doing that. Video streaming market. Now, we talked about the story. We talked about the importance of community. And now we're going to talk about one of the things that you can do in order to do this. And then I'm going to leave a few minutes here at the end here to just deep dive into any questions that you may have. Okay. The video streaming market is expected to exceed 70 billion this year. 70 billion, right? And these numbers were shared before there was ever any word of a pandemic. Seriously. So now I would say that has now since doubled, ladies and gentlemen, because of what happened. Remember, community was rocked. Our communication, our touch points with people were changed. So now we have to embrace technology in order to still touch people, reach people, impact people, serve people. So the video streaming market is expected to exceed 70 billion this year. So let's get into this. What are some of the best practices that you can use when it comes to using technology? And I would say even live video. There's a lot of technology and a lot of different ways that you can use it. Telehealth was already something that was in the works before the pandemic. And then, of course, this crisis happened, and we had to pivot to now, really, for some of us, using telehealth. You have to understand how to interact on live video or live audio. And when I say interact, you have to understand how to have a conversation with people as if they're there in front of you, right? So there's some body language, there's some facial expressions. We have to learn how to use the technology ourselves in order to interact with people. When people see that you understand the technology, it makes them more comfortable to use the technology themselves, or more comfortable to listen to you. And when I say interact on live video, many of my clients, when I'm talking to them, they have this camera confidence, this camera fear, and camera confidence rather, that they're lacking. And so when the pandemic happened, a lot of our trainings that we were doing with a lot of clients, speakers, consultants, right? Coaches, health professionals, went back to understanding how to be camera confident on Zoom, right? We did a training for some women in leadership here in South Carolina, helping them understand, how do I show up for camera? Lights, camera, action. Now I'm having to have a studio in my house. Think about it. All the world shut down, and all of our major people, Tamron Hall, Jimmy Fallon, Ellen, all of them had to learn how to do what? Technology from their house. And so, what I'm telling you, I'm giving you permission to say you're not alone, because we all had to learn how to adjust. But while you're learning how to adjust, it's not about perfection, right? It's about progress. While you're learning how to adjust, you have to learn how to interact on live video and audio. If I'm not going to see you, I better feel the energy in your voice. If I'm not going to see you, I better be able to understand what you're saying on this audio. It needs not to be flat. If you're going to interact on live video, I have to understand how to interact with that person as if they're right there in front of me. And there are ways you can do that. You have to make sure your clients and patients understand the technology. This is really big, especially if you're doing work in rural communities. My husband and I do a lot of community service in a rural part of South Carolina. And one of the stories we have heard over and over again is people having an opportunity to use telehealth, but they weren't prepared, right? They didn't know how to click the link. They didn't know how to log in, and understand and making sure that your clients understand this. We're talking about building community and engagement to let them know that you care and you're on their side. It's something as simple as giving them a cheat sheet. This is going to be your first telehealth appointment. This is what you can expect. This is how you can log on. What I love about this team, me being a speaker here at your conference, they sent me a very detailed email about how to log on, about how to set up my live camera, and all of those things. Don't assume, right? So you want to make sure your clients and patients understand the technology. Is the technology even available for them? Do they have Wi-Fi? And if they don't, what's another way that we can do this? Let me give you a practical example of that. We have a friend who's a pastor. He pastors a church in the upstate of South Carolina, and his congregation is largely older folks. And he understood that me doing our church service on Facebook Live would be a disservice to our people, right? This will be a disservice to our people, which gets into my third point. So he said most of our people don't have Facebook. They don't even know how that is. They're older folks. But what they do know how is how to use the phone. So he did, during the pandemic, still creating community and connecting with his community. He used the technology that aligns with their mission and his clients. So they went back to the telephone. They had a telephone service where they had people dial in a number and a code, and they were able to listen to the church service. Do you see that? You have to understand the technology that aligns with your people. And if you feel like, okay, we're going to go in this direction because we believe that this is the direction that we need to go, don't leave your people behind. Bring them with you, even if that means you have to teach them how to do it. Now, granted, the telephone line was easier, but he, as he told me, he still had to talk to some people and explain to them, okay, this is how you use this. But making sure you pick the technology that aligns with your mission. And then be okay with incorporating other methods. You see this? Be okay with incorporating other methods that will really help you with your mission. So if you're saying right now, well, we're on social media, okay, But what else can you do that's going to help community building? Remember, visibility is power in your community. So it's about building, connecting, and engaging. And how can I do that? Where are my people hanging out? What is it that they need? And then how can I go there and be of service to them there? Remember what I said at the beginning, a crisis never leaves you the same. Remember that. A crisis never leaves you the same. You have the opportunity, okay, to come out of this better, or you stay the same. And I'm telling you, in this world that's moving fast paced, this digital technology, you can't afford to stay in your same place. It's costing you. It's costing you community. It's costing you real connection with people. You have to understand, right, that this is a crisis, but what can we learn while we're here? And then what can we do to make this better for the people that we serve? A crisis never leaves you the same. The real powerful part about that, ladies and gentlemen, is you have the opportunity to make real change in the midst of this crisis. Listen, I want to invite you to connect with me all across social media at The Rose Show Live. I'm excited to be here. We have about less than 10 minutes, but I wanted to really give this time an opportunity, and I'm going to invite Monique to come back on to open up any opportunity for you all to ask any kind of questions or any comments or want me to clarify anything that I presented thus far. This was a great, Monique.
Oh my goodness, that was fantastic. The chat is lighting up and people are so excited and thankful for this information. So I'm going to get right into the questions after I check my posture now that we've got a good lesson on how to connect with community via video. So our first question comes from Antonio, and he says, when you reference active, so you referred to being active in earlier in your presentation. Mm-hmm. What types of actions are you referring to when you say active?
And I'm great question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Monique. Go ahead. I'm assuming. Go ahead, Monique.
I'm assuming he's talking about when you were talking about active community.
Right. So what I'm saying about active community is this is something that we can't just have as a pie in the sky thing. We have to really embrace that. And then we have to build a company culture around community. And what I mean that is, I'm going to take it a step further, Monique and Antonio, and say, when I say company culture, when we're saying we believe in community with our patients, with our clients, that means you all have to model community inside of the building. It's not enough to say we believe in community, but the very people who are saying this don't even have community among themselves. I remember talking to an agency in the middle of the pandemic, and they were having 3 to 5 meetings a day virtually. And these folks were saying, we have burnout. We are tired of meeting via Zoom. And so I talked to the higher ups and made a suggestion. I said, can some of these meetings be discussed like in an email? Can we pick up the phone and call people? Do we really need to have 4 to 5 meetings a day? Were you guys doing that in person? Let's not create that culture, because that's not a part of community, because your employees are burned out. So it's really just creating that extension of what you're already doing on the inside. I often talk about that visibility is power, but visibility is an inside job. That means it starts what we do inside the building and it just flows out from what we're already doing. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And I immediately thought about when you said making sure that you're engaging your community, and for the purpose of this conference and the work that we do in terms of health literacy, outreach is not enough. The engagement piece is one of the pieces that we've had to take a major pivot in, because whereas we would be in the community doing this type of work, we had the barrier of going virtual, right? So how do we still connect with our communities and make sure that we're reaching them in a way that's not only meaningful but also accessible? So that is so key, and I hope that's one of the major takeaways for us as we continue to develop our programs in the community. Which leads me to our next question, Ro. So it also comes from Antonio. Antonio, how do you know if your story is aligned with your audience?
Right. Surveys. We listen, I know you all survey people, because whenever I go and get checked, pricked, sticked, whatever happens, I always get a survey about the experience. But do we really assess that information? Don't answer. You don't need to tell me, right? But we need to do surveys. We need to start asking more questions of the people that we're serving, the community that we're building. And so that's one way we could find out if our story really aligns, because when you ask the right questions, you'll get the answers that will tell you, okay, we're missing the mark here. We need to maybe pivot or change. The other thing I think about when your story aligns is really sitting back and looking at what you've done up until this point. And has it really met the goals that you desire? We've done this outreach. We've opened up this center. We're doing this, this, and this. Does it really align to this is what we say our mission is? This is what we say our story. Does it align with that? And you got to go back to sometimes and say, hey, there's some things that we're missing here, or there's some things that we can amplify and add to this that will be really helpful. But it's really having some honest conversations with the people that we serve and asking them some questions. What is it that you want? What is it that we can do better? And be okay if you don't like the answers, because you can only get better. You can't confront what you don't acknowledge. It's like having the suggestion box. Put your suggestions in here, but you never go look at the suggestions in the box. That goes back to active and virtue. It's active. We put it on the wall for people to put their comments in there. But the virtue is, did we really go in there and look at what people said?
Ooh. Well, I don't know how you could have possibly knew what the next question was, because it's kind of along the same lines of that. So the question is, and I'm going to summarize it a bit, but asking about the burnout of multiple surveys. How do you continue to do that, get the feedback without overburdening your patients, your community, asking the same questions over and over. So that may be a good segue into that question. So what do we do? We need the information. We want to, survey to collect it, but how do we prevent over?
I love it. I think it's such a great question. One of the things I think that healthcare providers can look at doing is doing some of these surveys in real time. So while you have people in the office, while you have them there doing it. See, I'm a mom of 3, 13, 10, and 3. And baby Joe is 3 kids by herself, and she's 3. So my thing is, if I had, I've come in for a service and I leave with my kids and you ask me to do that, or you send it to me in the mail, I've gotten a lot of the paper copies. I may not readily do that then, because I got a lot of life happening, right? But can we look at ways in which we engage further with our community and client in real time, right when we have their attention, right there in the space? So is something to do with tech? I know there's HIPAA laws with that. What that may look like. Is it something that you have them fill out a form right there after their experience? Looking at ways to engage in real time, and then also being thought-provoking in some of the questions that we ask in order to get the responses we need to better serve people and the community.
Love that. I love that, because I think it's important that once we collect that information, that we're actually using it, so people do know that there's some quality improvement there, which makes it a little easier for me to take the same survey again if I know that this is directly going to influence change some sort of way.
For
so
sure.
I just want to before we wrap up, Ro, because I want to give you a few minutes to take some to give some parting thoughts and some takeaways. But we have a few comments in the chat that I want to share with you. So we're hearing we need active and virtue T-shirts. So that is key. That's resonating. We like community in healthcare. We need to do this a lot more in healthcare, building community, which includes understanding their capacity. I'm seeing, let's see, oh, storytelling. That's a big component in many cultures, but it's also a strategy that we use in health literacy for patient empowerment. And
Love
so
it.
we're loving the takeaways that you've given us for that. So I just want to end with saying we're right at 5:45, but we would be remiss if we didn't give you a couple of minutes just to give us some parting words, because the audience is loving your presentation. It is super helpful, particularly right now as we are continuing to figure out where we're going in this next wave or phase, let me not say wave of the pandemic. So give us some takeaways and let us know what we need to be doing moving forward.
Sure. Monique, first of all, thank you to you and your team for giving me the opportunity to share today. I really appreciate being here. Also, to all of the health professionals, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the service that you've given and supported our community and our state during the time that we needed you the most. I want you to know we still need you, right? As the world is opening back up, as we're sort of trying to get back to life as normal, that doesn't mean you become extinct, right? It may mean, whew, I could take a breather now. I can kind of step back a little bit, but your presence is still needed. Your story, how you show up is still needed. So I want you to understand what Maya Angelou says. There's no greater agony than an untold story. You want to build community. You want to engage and connect with your community. You want your visibility to be power. Then understand the power of your story, because your community, we need you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Please make sure to connect with me across all social media at The Rose Show Live. I am so grateful for this opportunity. And again, Monique, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and providing tremendous value. Closing out our day 2 of the Southeast Health Literacy Conference. It was the perfect ending to such an amazing day, and we are so glad you are able to join us today. So, on that note, I'm going to say to you all, thank you for hanging in, for staying with us all day long. Thank you for your active participation. We see the comments, we see the questions. We love that you're networking and building community within this community that we set out to create with the Southeast Health Literacy Conference. In fact, for the first 3 people who connect with The Rose Show Live on Facebook and Twitter, and you tweet one of her takeaways, we are going to give you one of her latest books, signed copies. And you have to be number one. Let me go back and tell you the rules again. So I want you to make sure you are in the contest to win one of these prizes. So first, you have to connect with The Rose Show Live. She's on all platforms. So connect with her, all the platforms. I want you to tweet anything that you've heard, particularly if you can remember one of those amazing John Maxwell quotes. Maya Angelou, we heard a couple throughout Rose's presentation. Tweet those at her. So that means just mention her in the comments so that she can see it. She's going to email the first 3 people who do that to me, and we're going to make sure you get a signed copy of her book. So thank you again for joining us. We are excited. We've had an amazing 2 days, closing out day 2. We'll be back tomorrow. We have an amazing lineup, and we have a amazing keynote speaker that's going to open, and we have an amazing keynote speaker that's going to close. So you don't want to miss. Stay with us, and we have a big prize to give away tomorrow. So you want to be there to have a chance to win a brand new iPad. So thank you again, and good night.
Goodbye.